sad that they went through so much, and in the end, Sett was thinking about not joining Nina on the boat because he thought he would hurt her again. In the last chapters, we saw that Beto gave shelter to Nina and everyone else until their boat was ready. Then King Noah arrived with her army because she suspected him of betraying Galgada. Hikami informs them that thousands of soldiers are surrounding the castle. Even though the situation is tense, Sul is being his usual self. Beto clearly didn't sell them out, so everyone keeps hiding and waiting for their ship, which will be ready in 2 or 3 days so they can escape. But for now, they are trapped. Hikami also mentions that he saw green flags with the army, which confirms that Prince Toat is there too. Then we see King Noe acting like a judge. She lists Beto's crimes, like poisoning Sett, conspiring to murder Yor, doing secret trade, and even growing an army. She believes he's planning a rebellion to take the throne for himself, but he calmly tells her that all these accusations are groundless, meaning they are lies and that he did nothing wrong. Toad suddenly jumps in and asks that if this is true, then why did he tell Sett to go to Nina in the Far Eastern prison, and accuses him of creating a backup plan to kill Sett in case the poisoning didn't work. She almost believes him, but suddenly Nina speaks up. She says Beto is innocent because he welcomed her with open arms after she escaped from prison. Noe is surprised to see her, and Toad looks purely disappointed. Things become a little clearer, but Noe commands Beto to stay in his room for 3 days while she investigates further, since it hasn't been confirmed whether he intended to rebel or not. Nina is also told that she cannot go outside yet because she is still a suspect in the attempted assassination of Sett, without them knowing that he is literally with her. As they walk away, Beto thanks her, but she looks at him with concern. He reassures her that there is no trouble, at least not at the moment. She asks what his real goal is, but he just laughs and says they can talk about it later. The scene shifts and we see Anne suggesting that she lead the way, but Nina says she can walk on her own. Even though her eyes aren't perfect, she can finally see shapes and colors again. Most importantly, she can sense where people are. That's when Toad arrives and calls her a criminal and an insect that disgusts him. She looks like she's about to cry, but she sends her servants away and confronts him directly. She knows that he was the one who sent her to that prison. In response, he laughs at her, calling her stupid and a fool, asking her who would believe such baseless accusations. In the heat of the moment, she says that Sett believed her, which confirms to him that she did run into Sett. While Nina panics, Toad wonders why she isn't dead yet and demands to know where Sett, his god, is. The wound that Sett gave him suddenly begins to ache. He gets frustrated by it, but he's also annoyed by her. Before leaving, he looms over her and tells her to die with a look of intense malice. As he walks away, he says that if Sett couldn't do it, then he will destroy her himself. Then we see Sol and Azure randomly playing Shatar while planning their strategy. Sol explains that Toad's mother was the daughter of a very powerful chancellor. However, when a new king came to power, she was pushed aside and treated unfairly because he hated anything that created an imbalance of power. Azure adds that the prince is surrounded by fallen former statesmen who have no real path to the throne. He also says that both big and small sacrifices always come when power and ambition are involved. They casually play their moves while Nina watches and listens closely until the bird Nina came along with Sett. He is carrying a sword. Nina tries to take it from him since it would be dangerous, and she notices that he is glowing faintly, wondering if he is trying to say something. Sol thinks that he might be sensing danger and walks out like a clockwork fighting doll. Azure suggests that perhaps he wants to protect Nina. She tries to comfort him by saying that she won't do anything risky, but Sol says she shouldn't make promises she can't keep. Anne worries about Beto, and Hikami comments that Toad is trying to frame him for his own schemes. But Sol can't imagine Noe actually believing Toad, while Azure agrees that it could definitely be a way to hide a different objective. Even now, Nina just listens. They tell her to avoid doing anything dangerous because for now, she is the only one who can move freely in the castle. She thinks that Toad is pretty childish and will probably prioritize his own safety, wondering what he will think of next. She also believes that she must be the one to settle things with him. He really is very childish. Here he is, biting his nails and spiraling into a plan plan against her, hating the fact that he had to see her carefree face again. If she and Yor had died together, he wouldn't need to frame Beto. Then, under the cover of night, someone pours the contents of the bottle into the castle's water supply. The next morning, Nina is having breakfast with Noe and Toad. She begins to tell Noe what happened in the prison when a soldier suddenly runs in. He reports that the soldiers in the western tower are collapsing. They rush outside and see many soldiers lying on the ground, sick from the water. Toad pretends to be worried, saying that Beto must have poisoned the water to kill everyone before the investigation could be completed. Noe orders her men to accompany her as she heads to his chamber. Now Nina is left alone with him. She asks if he could have been the one behind it, but he claims that he is the victim and that his soldiers are collapsing as well, though his expression says otherwise. She can't believe a single word he says. He takes out a dagger, and just as she thinks he's about to hurt her, he smiles and uses it on himself. He starts screaming for help and tells everyone that she is a cursed agent of Fortna and that she is the one who poisoned the water. So the guards grab her. He declares that because she injured a royal prince, she must be executed immediately. But suddenly news arrives that King Noe has also collapsed from the poison. This truly shocks him, and as the realization sets in that she might have used the same water, he starts running to save her. Nina stops him, asking if he even knows what kind of poison it was. He is clearly panicking because he wants to save his aunt and give her the antidote. She asks if he was the one behind it, and he accidentally screams that he only made the poison, that he set this whole thing up. By saying this, he admits in front of everyone that he is the criminal. King Noe then walks up from behind him, looking perfectly healthy. Nina had gone to her the previous night and told her that he might resort to poison, which is why they planned everything beforehand. She calls him short-sighted, and because he attempted to frame his own brother while trying to sacrifice the very troops that served him, she declares that she will personally punish him right then and there. Feeling cornered and desperate, he shouts that he is not at fault. Through a series of flashbacks, we see that he has been under immense political pressure ever since he was a child. He blames the shitty world and reveals that he was manipulated by the Chancellor's family and other power-hungry statesmen. They mocked his weak physique and lack of regal spirit, making him feel like a useless disappointment. However, Noe refuses to listen to any excuses. She prepares to strike. He's paralyzed by fear and resentment, cursing the entire world. As the sword descends, he screams for someone to save him. Just then, Nina intervenes and prevents Noe from taking his life. She says that's not how it should be. Instead, she punches him hard and says that this is how it should be. She grabs him by the collar and scolds him, telling him not to attempt something if he isn't prepared for the consequences. She asks if he really understands what it means to feel pain and frustration. Then her expression softens. She tells him that it's not only his fault and asks if no one ever taught him better and says he should have spoken about his struggles sooner. She even calls out Noe as well, saying that she's partially to blame for letting things get this bad. Noe gets pretty angry at her boldness and asks who she thinks she's talking to. Nina stands her ground, saying that she's speaking to her fiance's aunt, but since the wedding hasn't happened yet, she is speaking as the Princess of Fortna. She dismisses that, saying that Fortna is as good as Galgada's territory. Standing firm, Nina thinks that if she really is one of the star people, then they should grant her the power of words. Then she begins by saying that she was wrong for asking for Fortna, explaining that the country belongs only to itself and that the likes of Galgada cannot control it. Hearing this, Noe becomes furious. She orders her guards to seize Nina, saying she wants to punish her for insulting Galgada. But before they can even get closer to her, arrows suddenly fly through the air, stopping them midway. Three beautiful men in hoods appear to protect her. They stand around her in a protective circle, ready to fight anyone who tries to touch her. This marks the end of Volume 9. Before we start Volume 10, please do like and subscribe. It might not make me crazy rich, but it will motivate me a lot. Sol tells her that the ship is ready to leave. Nina is surprised to see them coming out of hiding. She asks if Sett is back to normal, so he explains that he is still a puppet with no will of his own, but he can still fight if given a sword. Noe doesn't know who they are, but she recognizes Sol because of his spear. He removes the cloth covering his face, and she immediately attacks him, screaming that he betrayed them. He blocks the attack and calmly replies that he has never once betrayed her, neither in the past nor more in the future, so she points out that he's standing with the enemy. Nina speaks on his behalf, saying that he only saved them in prison, but Noe is furious. This is where we learn about their history together, and it turns out that Sol was actually her advisor. She probably liked him and wanted him to stay by her side, but he was tired of that life and said that he wanted to retire and live a quiet life. He even called himself a terrible criminal who killed the king. She tries to defend him, saying that it was an accident, but he had already made up his mind. Before leaving, he tells her that he believes she can lead the country down a better path than her brother did. And then he leaves with the words, "I want to be alone." Noe stands in the corridor, devastated by his departure. If only she had said that she wanted him to stay, maybe things would have been different. Now Sol tells her that she has never beaten him in a fight, teasing her as she tries to stop their group. She begins to lose her composure. She even accuses Nina of tempting him with her charms. She is clearly flustered and embarrassed by the accusation, but Noe is blinded by rage. She calls her a vile vixen and threatens to chop off her head and send it back to where she came from. Nina tries to explain herself, but Azure steps in front of her and asks if this is a declaration of war against Fortna. He says that he cannot overlook the rude treatment directed at the princess who guides his country. Noe dismisses this by saying that a mere messenger cannot speak to a king in such a manner. Until now, they had only known him as a messenger. He throws off his hood and fully reveals himself, stunning Noe. His true identity as the new King of Fortna is revealed, and literally everyone is left speechless. He declares that he came to take back their princess, and that this marks the end of friendly relations between their countries. He also reveals that he didn't come merely to visit. He came to spy on Galgada, and his people have been spreading criticism throughout the country. He tells her that within 5 years, the country will begin to fall apart, and eventually a revolution will occur. In short, Fortna is no longer in danger of falling to Galgada because he is the king now. She laughs, believing she still has the upper hand because she has 1,000 troops waiting outside. However, a messenger runs in, panicked, saying the troops are dropping like flies. Sol reveals that he put a little laxative in the well, which is now causing her soldiers to get sick right when they are needed. Not only that, they also decide to take Bido as a hostage, using him as a shield. On command, the horses arrive. Azure climbs onto one of them and takes Nina with him. She holds onto him tightly as they ride away. Meanwhile, in the chaos, Bido's ladies lead Toad somewhere else. Noe screams at her soldiers to wake up and chase them, ordering anyone who can still move to go after them. But by then, they have already passed through the city gates and blended into the townspeople. Nina apologizes, feeling guilty and thinking that all this chaos happened because she ran her mouth. But he reassures her, saying that he had wanted to tell off the king the entire time. Normally, he would have just endured it, but she inspired him. He looks at Nina with a kind expression and says, "It's a relief." Nina is caught off guard by his bright smile. She wonders if she's finally becoming even a little bit useful to him, and it feels like a huge weight has been lifted from her heart. They reach the docks where a massive Starbian trading ship is anchored. She's amazed by its size and wonders if they are really supposed to board such a large vessel. He confirms that he had already acquired their corporation while extracting their messenger. Bido joins them after his role as a hostage is over, and also reunites with Nina, who asks where Sett and Sol are. Hikami tells her that they are acting as decoys to slow down the king, but when Bido waves goodbye to her, she becomes worried about him again. He reassures her that he won't get into trouble for helping them, since he was technically being held as a hostage, so his involvement can be easily excused by the authorities. Then he reveals his true political goal. He wants to turn his territory into a politically independent region. He plans to rule it as his own personal domain while maintaining friendly relations with the neighboring lands of Fortna and Galgada. He doesn't want to rule the larger kingdom of Galgada because it would simply be too big to handle. Instead, he just wants to live the way he wishes. He also tells her that he has a hunch that she will eventually be the one to bridge the gap between their two lands. Soon, Sol arrives at the dock, signaling that it's time to go. Bido urges her to hurry. Just before she climbs aboard, he calls out to her and asks her to take care of his brother and to teach him more about love, no matter what kind. Once on board, she asks about Sett again, but Sol doesn't know where he is, so she begins to look for him. Finally, she spots him back at the dock. She realizes that he isn't moving toward the ship. He has no intention of boarding it with her. He's in his tiny form again, explaining his inner struggle. He feels that because he carries a sword, he will only end up hurting her again if he stays by her side. That's why he believes he can't go with her. But despite his fears, he admits that he loves her. She tears up and says that she's the one who hurts people. She knows that she's being selfish, greedy, and self-centered, but she still wants him to come with her. She wants to learn more about him, she wants to understand him better, and she wants to spend more time with him. But then the scene shifts and we see Noe and a group of soldiers on horseback rushing toward the docks. By that time, the ship is already sailing away on its way to Fortna. Tell me I'm not the only one who gets emotional during scenes between Sett and Nina. I can't say it's love just yet, but the way their story is portrayed is so beautiful. Now, because I don't want to leave this video on a cliffhanger, I'll tell you that he actually does go with her to her homeland. And although the next chapters mostly focus on Nina reuniting with the people she left behind in Fortna, we also get some really nice moments between her and Azure. But for now, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening to me. Take care of yourself and goodbye.
I don't really wanna hurt you, but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change.